Senator Cornyn.
Detective Pemberton, are drugs, well, let me back up. Explain what the role of drugs in the community have in terms of violence, in terms of the gangs that distribute them, that presumably engage in a lot of the violence, including attacks on police officers and other innocent parties. Where do those drugs come from?
Well, those drugs can come from anywhere, depending on what type they are. Fentanyl, marijuana, heroin, those different types of narcotics flow in the country from different means. But what it means for an area like the District of Columbia is that the entities that actually engage in the distribution of those narcotics, they protect that distribution with guns and violence. Obviously, that's a black market operation, and it's very dangerous. And rival crews and gangs are always looking to take over territory and product and cash. So it becomes a very violent endeavor for all involved, whether that's people who are trying to purchase narcotics or these folks that are selling them or the neighborhoods that it's occurring in. And then for the police to try to intervene into that operation and make arrests, it becomes very dangerous.
So are drugs the primary coin of the realm, so to speak, for street gangs that engage in this violence?
It can be one of them. It depends, but there are certainly street crews and gangs in the District of Columbia that are focused around the distribution of narcotics.
And you mentioned that the drugs could come from anywhere, but is it your belief a substantial amount of those drugs come across our southern border?
I believe that's true. It's a little bit outside of my purview, but that's my understanding from the limited information.
And then once they make their way into the United States, then the street gangs are the distribution network that take over to distribute those to the ultimate consumer, so to speak.
Once they hit an urban area like the District of Columbia, yes.
And so are you familiar with the fact that there have been several or a number of notorious attacks against immigration and customs enforcement officials? They're law officers, are they not?
That's correct, yes.
And are you familiar with the fact there have been attacks against those ICE officers?
I have seen that, yes.
We've had 4 of them in Texas alone, including a recent attack that actually ended up killing some of the detainees, presumably the people that were the shooters was trying to protect from the ICE detention and deportation proceedings. And do you believe that the defunding and the disrespect and the failure to support and honor our men and women in blue who are merely enforcing laws that are passed by Congress and other legislative bodies, do you think that's been a major cause for some attacks against law enforcement officers?
Absolutely. The rhetoric that began in 2020 about defunding the police and eliminating the police, reducing the size and scope, responsibility of police departments, replacing them with behavioral health specialists, violence interrupters, social workers, all of that nonsense was not only rhetoric, but it was also codified in law and policy. And a lot of agencies, particularly in major urban areas, are still dealing with that. Here in the District of Columbia, we have an authorized sworn strength of 4,000 sworn members. We currently have 3,180. We have more than 800 vacancies for the position of police officer. All of that can be traced back to that policy and that rhetoric. So yes, it has made this situation very unsafe and unstable.
Senator Taylor, I believe there was a comment that there were only 24 deaths in Boston during some given period of time. I'm struck by the way that people speak about the reduction in crime. We're grateful for that always, but the idea that there were only a certain number of deaths or assaults or robberies or carjackings or the like, it seems to me misses the point. Isn't the point to have as close to zero as we can possibly have? In other words, is there ever a tolerable level of violence that's acceptable in your community in Tennessee or anywhere else, in your opinion?
No, and I remind my Soros-backed DA all the time that drowning in 10 feet of water feels just like drowning in 7 feet of water. We've got to get crime down as low as we possibly can and get it manageable. And that's where this Memphis Safe Task Force will have a huge benefit, because we'll be able to bring crime down to match the decreased numbers of police officers that we have, so that when they leave, we can maintain that crime level as low as possible, but it's got to be manageable.
Thank you.
Time's expired. Senator Blumenthal,